Good afternoon. Welcome to your favorite weekly current affairs program. It is 60 Minutes Nigeria. My name is Erosa Agbonlao. This week's edition, the second for the year 2021, promises to be exciting, educative, and of course, my panelists, my guests on the program today are very distinguished personalities who will dissect the topic that we have for discussion today. I have with me Professor Job Odion, a very regular face, a legal luminary with us. Nice to have you, Prof.
Good afternoon.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year too, and good afternoon to the other and Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay. We also have with us a very distinguished lecturer, Dr. Maxwell Osaige. Nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Rosa. God bless you. Viewers at home, please stay with us.
We also have with us a man that has become synonymous with giving predictions on national issues, and they come to pass. He is the president, United in Democracy, a pressure group, and of course, a political analyst and a communication strategist, Eyigalua Andrew. Nice to have you with us today.
Compliment to the season.
Okay, Happy New Year to you. Okay, so my guests are set to bring you the very best of analysis. So what are we looking at today? On this week's edition, we're looking at year 2020 in retrospect and of course postulation for the new year. We'll get started with Professor Job Odion, a former head of business law, University of Benin. Okay, now, Prof, year 2020 in retrospect, what's your take? A lot of issues. Some persons believe that COVID-19 blighted development. Some persons believe that the issue of security was a threat to national development. And some persons also believe that inflationary measures last year was very, very alarming. So what's your take? You want to streamline it?
Okay,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, I say Happy New Year once more to our viewers and everyone around. Well, the year 2020, we all know, was a very difficult year for everybody in every sector. The pains of last year was felt, albeit in a very negative sense. Like you rightly mentioned, the COVID-19 challenge was the main catalyst for all that went wrong with last year globally, and of course with respect to Nigeria as a country. Of course, when you have a global pandemic or a global issue of this nature, how each country is able to manage the crisis also would determine how much effect it will have on its citizenry, both individual and institutions. But here in Nigeria, we saw that the management itself was not too perfect, if I may use that word, and that imperfection in the management of the crisis itself now dovetailed into all other sectors, the educational sector where I belong to, the health sector, the financial sector, and just name it,
yes.
All that. So I think the core issue there was the management of the COVID crisis in Nigeria, especially as regards the palliative measures and the welfare measures. And of course, it was that gave vent to the point that people were asked to stay at home. The lockdown, which we hope we don't experience again this year. And the lockdown was imposed on everyone without proper arrangements for welfare or palliatives. We saw how the palliatives were being given out in piecemeal, and in most cases the palliatives were given out by individuals and by the private sector. Government's presence or government's efforts can readily be waved aside because it was too infinitesimal to be reckoned with. In terms of policy framework, policy trust, nothing was planned. Even when we knew that the COVID itself started in December 2019, we got our first case in March. The efforts to stop international travelers and all that wasn't done immediately before the first index case came to the country. And so planning again was a challenge for us as a country, but we kept blaming it on the global pandemic and all that. We agreed. Then let's move on, and then since I'm just opening it up, but beyond that, then we had the NSAS crisis, Of course, we'll see later that the NSAS was also tied to aspects of the COVID challenge.
Yes.
And then in my own sector where I belong to, we had a long ASU strike, which only ended.
We must say congratulations that you are back.
That's
The
the
9 months.
After 9 months of
Yeah.
lockdown, which locked down our academic universities for 9 good months. And you know what that means to any sector when you lock up your engine room of research and everything for such a long period.
Yeah.
So I think let me pause here for a while.
Okay. Dr. Maxwell, year 2020 retrospect.
I really, at the moment, lack words to actually describe 2020.
Okay.
Well, from the spiritual background, I wouldn't want to target that it was a failure.
Okay.
Because the Bible asks us to give thanks in everything.
Yeah.
So as a result, I should be grateful to God, because even in the 2020, we knew how many people that followed 2020.
That passed away.
Yeah, so, however, we are still here, irrespective of the different challenges that we saw. But to me, one of the key point of 2020 was actually the policy.
Okay.
And that policy, which you see from the ruling class, take it or you leave it, has a way of deciding the way you and I live. So, and the policy we saw in 2020 were actually anti-people. Now, I said that for a reason, anti-people in the sense that in a situation where a minimum wage cannot buy a bag of rice, was actually killing. Let me use that word in a way, in quote. It was killing, because in the sense that if you look at it critically, an average Nigeria, if you look at the population of Nigeria, we said, now you will agree with me that there are food that we rely on day by day and night by night. Those food and the policies that we are geared towards them to make them sufficient for us, we are really nowhere to be found. And at the end of the day, we all have to suffer every bit of it. So, however, after that, just like Prof said, a lot of things happened. But I try to look at it from our budget angle.
Okay.
You know a nation by their budget.
Yeah.
And if you look at, I like statistics.
Okay.
I'm a scientist,
Yeah.
which, you know, I deal with empirical analysis. So if you look at the budget for 2020, I think it was about 10.8 trillion naira. And we were told that the revenue which we will get was about 5 point something.
So there was a deficit.
There was about 3 point something, something about 4 point something deficit. Now this year, budget has been passed again. We are having 10.81, which is a 21% rise of the previous budget pass. Now the key issue is this: is it just passing budget, or trying to meet up with ensuring that that budget is implemented? At least we know there is nothing like 100%, even in machine efficiency, there is nothing like 100. At least you should have something close to 90%. And we didn't see that in 2020. Rather, the politicians used the pandemic to enrich themselves. We saw
allegedly.
Yes, in a way, but we saw one. No, we saw one in Lagos, which was unheard and everywhere, captured by different media organizations, and how somebody has to use the palliative for her own birthday. So now let us not go there, but however, it still try to explain the part that an average Nigeria is selfish, and every day we suffer ourselves by way of our policies or by way of how we approach things. And I want to believe we will have a rethink, and 2021, which we have just entered, will make a meaningful.
Okay, when we come to the area of postulation, we'll now look at that. But I think what Dr. Maxwell has emphasized is the setbacks or the hiccups in terms of the economy in year 2020 and the effect of COVID-19 on the economy. Okay, let's also get the thought of Eyaloa, Andrew. Yes.
Well, 2020 in retrospect,
okay,
to me, it was a bleak year for everybody in the world. We all felt it negatively.
Not only in Nigeria.
In the world. You know, especially in the area of this pandemic, the disease that engulfed the whole world and paralyzed the economy. And this disease actually started in 2019 in Wuhan, in China.
Yeah.
But the whole world got to know in March. And I can remember when the thing started, newly, I was putting on my nose mask. And a friend of mine told me, why you put on nose mask? It doesn't work. It's not a disease that is communicable. And I said, okay, no problem. But today, wearing of nose mask is now a dress code.
It's a dress code.
So, coming nearer home, in Nigeria, 2020, my God, it was something I would liken to a situation of experiencing the good, the bad, and the ugly. In the sense that it was a disaster for so many people. The pandemic came, so many people died, and they are still dying. Some families lost their jobs, husband and wives, and in sports, everything was at a standstill.
Yeah.
Those state sports festivals that was supposed to be held in 2020 was postponed. Even the Olympic Games was postponed. And if anybody had told me that there would be a time where somebody would go to the stadium, no fan, will be watching football and the match is official, I won't believe it. It was only in 2020.
That it happened.
That it happened.
Yes.
And you still see in Nigeria, it was in 2020 we experienced fuel hike and a border closure, so many difficulties. And I thank God for those of us that were able to survive 2020 and we are seeing 2021. It wasn't easy. So I look, but though one man's meat is another man's poison anyway. Yes. Some people, it was this same 2020, they enjoyed themselves. Like he rightly said, the palliative that were supposed to be given to the people that were on lockdown, it was being looted and, by some certain group of people, they were using it to enrich themselves. And they lived well, like the border closure too. Some people enriched themselves. And the government, they made us understand that closing of the border maybe will finally, make Nigeria richer, or make us believe in our indigenous goods and services and all that to improve our sector. But at the end, it was detrimental. Some people enriched themselves. So some people are crying that 2020 was not a good year for them. But some people are happy that, oh, thank God, 2020 came. This was the year I made my life, and I've enjoyed 2020. But certain things happened. In 2020, it was the year we experienced one of the freest elections in Nigeria. That is the Edo State governorship election that was held on the 19th of September. Okay. Before the election, we heard that there was going to be bloodshed, fighting, and all that. But at the end of it, it was free and fair. And that is about the freest election Nigeria has ever had. It was in 2020. And it was in 2020 also our Reverend Oba Obini did his anniversary of 3 or 4 years. It was peaceful. And it was in 2020, Igwe Festival was held, and it was peaceful. So 2020 is not just that bad.
So there are positive side of it.
You brought in the cultural aspect of it.
So that is it for now.
Yeah. Okay, but we'll get back to Dr. Maxwell Sagi. Now, still looking at 2020.
Yeah.
2020 in retrospect. Yeah. There's an aspect that we need to look at: security. Yeah. So, do you think, like you have also talked about policymakers, talking about the federal government, the state governments, do you think government has gotten it right in terms of security for Nigerians?
Not really. How do you get something right? Is when you carry out a measurement, and the measurement tend to be satisfactory to the public or the citizen, then you say, okay, fine, they've gotten it right. I do not see any difference between where we are now and even 2018. In fact, it's even getting worse. Now, just like he said, when he said the border closure was to help see if our domestic product can rise, other aspects that led to border closure was also that security.
Yeah.
It was even more of the
proliferation of small arms and all that. The federal government
and everything.
To stop
but
it.
Still, in the process of that, we saw that crime metamorphose into even what you and I did not even envisage at the beginning of the border closure. Now, I think they've asked themselves, they said to themselves, what have we achieved by way of this border closure? It didn't put anything to our budget. It didn't add any dime to our budget. Neither did we see that translate to a better outcome in terms of infrastructural development, health sector, etc., etc. Not really. We are just in the way the country, we are perpetually just there. And that perpetual nature is as a result of people not realizing. I'll give you an example, sir.
Yeah.
Was it not as a result of the NSAS we saw many of the police stations and everything vandalized, burnt, and everything? As we speak, sir, most of all these police stations are still like that. What? See, I said it in one of our programs like this I said, see, when a politician needs something, whether it is 20 billion, they will provide it that day. Now I ask myself, what does it take to build a police station? Sir, those people, they don't see. In my area right now, if you go to a police station to report, no police station. Sir, those places that they burn or they vandalize are still there. Now, has anything changed between 2020 and the 7th day of 2021? Not really. I've not seen that. But however, I also want to believe that they are working because I believe in feasibility studies. I also want to believe that maybe it's because of the various panels they've set up to acquire the integrity of what led to the NSAS crisis and everything. So hopefully maybe their report might state one or two reasons. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah. So maybe if they go ahead to do those things, one way or the other affect the validity of the outcome of the panel resolution. However, having said all that, I believe, because as a father, I know I am the #1 policy maker in my home. Okay. If I try something and it didn't work, or my daughter tries something that I think is not good, I reverse it immediately and I do the next one. But we just have a system where even the leader that gave the policy that didn't work the last time is also giving you another strenuous policy that even you cannot even comprehend. And how do you get results from such things? It's my prayer that they listen to us, that they are leading, their policy is not affecting us. So if your policy is not affecting me positively, make a change. Okay. And let me come back to you to say thank you for your policy is affecting us.
Review of policy.
Yeah.
That's
heavily.
Okay, Prof. Now, still on the issue of security, year 2020 in retrospect, do you think the federal government or the policymakers have gotten it right? I know that we've discussed extensively on the issue of security chiefs, you know, and somebody said, one of my guests on the program said, year 2021, he would love to see that the first thing the federal government implements is change of security chiefs, you know. But some persons believe that, well, the president has a reason for keeping them. But looking at security, do you think they've gotten it right?
Definitely no. I don't think any a blind man or a deaf man will not hesitate to say no. The good thing is that the good thing is that we have all seen the fallout of poor policy framework in the security sector. Yes. Very poor policy framework, even in terms of implementation. Nothing is being done to address security challenges in this country. When we say nothing concrete, so we have to see what is being done by way of the implementation aspect. If I feel safe to travel from Benin to Auchi, or somebody feels safe to travel from Benin to Abuja without having to book a flight that is so expensive now, and for every little thing you have to book a flight. Once there is a semblance of feeling of safety and confidence, then you can say that they are doing something. But if they are doing something in their kitchen or wherever, you're not feeling it, nothing is being done. Last year it was very horrible. We cannot keep counting what happened. The bandits and all that in Zamfara State, the Katsina State, where they had to kidnap even secondary school students the very day our President and Commander-in-Chief landed in Katsina. Is that possible anywhere? If the Commander-in-Chief is in any state, it means that the security network, the condoning of that state is massive. You can't even come in and come out, or go out rather. So, but how did you explain that the Commander-in-Chief was in Katsina, his own home state, and some bandits were kidnapping students from the boarding house, and a couple of days later there were issues of ransom being paid and not being paid, and all those hogwash they fed us, and then they said they were rescued. So that is the best evidence of how much they failed last year. The pockets of violence here and there that we witness can be catalogued in the big encyclopedia. The Boko Haram threat and all the claims that they have been decimated and all that, we saw that they still keep striking and killing innocent people. Villages are razed down, they strike and they disappear. You change the JTF commanders, you change the sector commanders, nothing new is brought on board. And then the man at the top, the man at whose box everything stops, it still remains there. And so we keep postulating. But even those who have taken some steps on their own, like the Motekun issue we discussed here on this platform in the West, you see that there's a relative peace. I won't say peace, total peace, but some level of security in the West, because I think that's where I travel most often these days. I just told I came from Ibadan yesterday. I guess if I was traveling to the north for anything, I would have long cancelled that arrangement. But we can still travel on that western route because they've taken it into their own hand by way of state or confederacy policing, because at least the western region is like a confederate of the state. And so it goes to the issue of all that people have been canvassing that we should go into state policing and to address this, because security, though in the hands of the federal government, they fail totally. And for us in Edo State, we have also seen how monumental we are stressed, especially just before the Christmas and the Yuletide season. We saw the level of security, insecurity in this state, the robberies, the court killings and all that, and of course the kidnapping. But thank God we have our vigilantes. Yesterday I was coming to town, I saw some vigilantes now complementing police efforts in our roads and all that. So again, maybe we were trying to take a cue from what is happening in our western states, where we should get the best practice for now. For security issue. So clearly, the federal government failed. And as we said, as we project forward, we hope that these issues be addressed. My only worry, as I try to round up, is that this year is going to be a year of electioneering and politicking. And so nobody should expect anything different from what we have been seeing.
Prof, you now talk about that. But still on security, I will just get the thought of Andrew. Now, just why my guest was commenting on the issue, there was a footage, and we saw the Edo State Police headquarters in the GRA Benin City. We saw the footage. Maybe the presentation director will allow us to see that clip again. Now, on New Year Day, we got a report that some suspects in police detention and the state CID escaped, and the police quickly had to clear the air because there was erroneous reports on the number of suspects who escaped. But the police quickly cleared the air and said only 10 suspects escaped from the police, and that they have rearrested 2. Now, if the police that would depend on to protect us could experience that kind of breach, so what do you think should be done to forestall that kind of problem? Because it is the state governor, Governor Obaseki, is really worried about those who escaped from Nigerian Correctional Center during the hijacked NSAS protest. Now, police detention again, suspects escaping. So what do you think should be done on this security issue?
There are things you don't tell the public.
Okay.
Have you been to the state CID? That place, even before now it is even secured. There's a main gate. Before now it was just wide open. If you go to the state CID and if you see the way they protect their cells and what have you, there's no way anybody can escape from that place without an insider being involved. They should investigate properly. So it's an insider's job. And that place, at the gate, we have about 5, 6, 7 policemen or women at the gate. Within the compound, we have some mufti policemen, and the place the place where these criminals are being kept is even far from the gate. How come 10 persons escape without being caught? They are just trying to fool somebody. They are only fooling themselves.
We understand that the policemen on duty on that day have been arrested.
Fine. They should act. They know what they did.
So they will investigate.
And in terms of security, I laugh at Nigeria when you see the security lapses. And most times I often hear that they send our personnel, the officers abroad for training. If you go abroad for training, you see how policemen work. Like in this the Benin Lagos road now, you don't see, that is an express road. It's supposed to be free. Most times when you are coming from Lagos, you see the road, the roads are being barricaded with wood. A road that was, they spent money on in constructing it. They put wood across the road to be, you know, slowing down vehicles, to be collecting money and obstructing traffic. When I was coming last week, I saw there is a yellow line. Do you know the meaning of that yellow line? That yellow line is strictly for police patrol. It's not for ordinary vehicle. So what they do on express road is police officers with their vehicle, as they are going, they are coming. You don't block the road. As you are going, the other side they are coming. You start, you know, cars, because it doesn't obstruct traffic. So that when there is any kind of robbery, they will be at alert. And if such a thing happens, maybe outside Benin Lagos, any other express road, they shouldn't be putting wood to barricade. They should be going back and forth like that. So in a situation where you see police parading, patrolling on the road, do you think a robbery will take effect without police intervening? And that is one. It's only in Nigeria you see kidnappers coming to kidnap over 300 children and getting away with it. How do you carry 300 children? How did you pack them? 300 children, you are talking about 6, 7 coastal buses. And thank God we have our cell phones now that you can, the police number is at your disposal. I was asking myself, didn't they call the police? The police in that state, don't they have helicopter? My brother, if you commit any crime as an individual abroad, if the police, they are coming on the ground, they are coming on the air. When you see helicopter hovering around you like this, where are you going to go? It is you that will wait. I'm here. I asked myself, don't they have, at least in Edo State, they should be having at least 3 helicopters. Once I mean, it was baffling to me. I couldn't believe that over 300 children were kidnapped, and after some days, they were now released. They should ask themselves what they did with those 3 children, the drama they were trying to tell Nigerians. It won't work. So our security system is so porous, and I don't know how to describe it. Nigeria should adapt another method in fighting security. It is lives that is at stake here.
We'll come back to you. I can see that Dr. Marshall was itching to make a remark when we're talking about the escape from the police detention at the state CID, Benin City. Yes. So, but what advice, or how do you think the police can be more efficient?
Which has to do with your the postulation.
Yeah, we are entering the postulation
for the 2021.
Yes.
Just like we will always say, in science, if you do not know the cause of a thing, it is quite difficult for you to know the way forward. And that's why you find out that it took the World Health Organization it took them time to make a categorical statement on COVID-19 in terms of its effect on the world. Yeah. Not that they weren't having some data with them, but they needed to validate those data to ensure that, in ensuring that it met up with the normal standard of the guideline for science. And having said that, security and the way forward, or what can we suggest that will translate to a better result, is bigger than what we think, sir.
Okay.
Bigger than what we think, in the sense that, let's look at it from one angle. If, as a father, and I refuse to mobilize my children, and I know that they're going to school, they require 100 naira a week, and I decide to give them 40 naira, do I expect them to complete the number of school days in a week? Which means when that particular 40 naira get exhausted, certainly they are going to sit down at home. and just do the normal stuff. And that's what we are experiencing. Sir, the first thing you need to look into, do you look into Nigeria budget to see what is accrued to each institution? And you measure it with our neighboring country in Africa, like South Africa and thereafter. Then you ask yourself, are you sure we are going anywhere? Now, I do not think, I'm sorry to say, my postulation is this. I do not think we will get anything right the way the current security nature is being run at the moment. Okay. Now, the only way you and I can start seeing anything different, or the only way we can start seeing a positive impact in terms of how the security of the system works, just like a Western country, you heard our co-discussant just now telling you how things work. And I ask myself, are we cursed? Is it that we are cursed in this country?
We are not cursed.
Yeah, because I've asked myself. No, yeah. See, it's high time we start asking certain questions. Because if you look at, I'm sorry, if you go back to the book of Daniel, we are told that even it passed the years that God actually planned to deliver the children of Israel. They didn't know until one man came to now find out that there is a curse that has to be broken. And that led to Daniel's prayer. I'm not a pastor. Yeah. No, that led to Daniel's prayer. And at the end of the day, we saw how God intervened. Now, however, having said that, there are key questions we need to start asking our politicians. Is it that you want to eat this money, your great-great-grandchildren will eat this money? I've asked myself certain questions, sir. In the house that my father built, I can't stay there. There is no politician right now that will say, I build one mansion, my son will stay there. Your son or your children, they all have other agendas. They have better plans for their life. So if I decide to stay in my father's house, am I making progress? So why are you not looking as if you must create something that belongs to Prof, that belongs to me, that belongs to you, aggregate them and you place them in your pocket without even looking at the details of how this thing will affect us. And that is what is affecting the police. The DPO cannot come and tell you that there is no money to buy fuel.
Of course. They will tell you the
AIG cannot, the AIG cannot come out to tell you that. In fact, we do not even have the right ammunition. Even right now as we speak, when you meet them on the road, sir, just look at them. You still see some policemen with stick. In 21st century, stick. Is this stick you want to use to catch armed robber on the highway?
Is this stick or baton?
Sorry, baton, thank you. Yeah. So you see,
baton is part of police equipment.
But even like that, you even see some holding on no stick. You see some holding on no stick.
Outside baton.
Outside baton. Okay. At the end of the day, then you ask yourself, 21st century, why are we not learning from countries that have been on where we are now? Somewhere along the line, they came together and said, we need to think. We need to look into what we have to do, and they made changes. And today, Singapore is one of them. Okay. You and I know the history of Singapore. But today, they are one of the best countries in the world. So we can do that. I'm begging our political class, let's leave this issue of myself. So the policy that they are making will affect various institutions, just like the education, the security, and you and I will go there and will be rest assured that yes, we have.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell. Prof, your own postulation. Okay. Now, even in COVID-19, we understand that the second variant, they call it, another COVID-19, but the federal government and, of course, the presidential task force on COVID-19, we have been advised to ensure that we follow the prescribed protocols to avoid contraction of COVID-19. Now, this is a new year. Okay. The economy, security, COVID-19. What's the way forward? Okay,
thank you very much. I'm just seeing on the news flash that the federal government is saying we need about 2.4 trillion naira to vaccinate 165 million Nigerians. Well, that figure may have been arrived at after some empirical work according to Doc. Okay. But I want to believe that that should be the first thing on the mind of the federal government now. how to deploy the vaccines to this country so that Nigerians can be vaccinated. Those who so desire. I know there are a lot of skepticism about the vaccines, so it has to be a question of choice, not compulsory vaccine.
Yeah.
That should be the first thing. No matter how what is spent, we've spent more trillions down the drains that we can't account for. So health first. So if you can deploy that, and if you can target certain thresholds in the first quarter of this year before March, to say this number we have vaccinated, these are the persons who volunteered to be vaccinated, and
so no need for lockdown.
No, certainly not. Lockdown should be the last option. I'm not saying I can't say that precisely because the medical experts were there, but I think that should not be the first option. We shouldn't repeat the mistake we made last year of just jumping to lockdown because we are hearing about lockdown in the Western world and all that. Those people, they plan for lockdowns. They have their own temperature, they have their own weather and other issues that affect their own spike. That we don't just copy and paste and then come here and adopt their graph and just say it's going up, and then we brandish figures that we cannot really defend. Those figures that we see every day, even as a man in the humanities, I can fault some of them based on logic, which I am also trained in. So we should be focusing on the vaccines, and then the palliative measure. What effort are you making now to ensure that even though you are asking people to stay at home, like the levels 1 to 12 and all that, how do you take care of the informal sector too? Because the thing will dive or will cascade to the informal sector. So we shouldn't lock down the way we did last year, and most importantly, we shouldn't frustrate those who want to go to school. Federal government should address issues involving universities, especially the COVID protocol. They should be prepared to deploy resources for the schools to set up points where they can people can wash their hands, where you can have access to masks, big lecture halls where we can do the social distance and proper spacing, and not to pretend and have that COVID to further lock the schools because you cannot settle issues that affect the university or the tertiary institutions, or even the primary and secondary schools. All sectors in this country should be allowed to move seamlessly, but with focus on the COVID protocol. That should be the first thing we should address, so that our economy will not suffer as it suffered, because the repercussion of last year's mismanagement is what we are still feeling even as we speak now. And so to just jump into another lockdown without preparing for the economy and all that sector would be most ill-advised.
Thank you. Mr. Andre Aloa, postulation for year 2021. We're already in the new year now. Yes.
My postulation for 2021 is for us to call on God Almighty to come and cleanse the whole world, especially in the area of this pandemic, without God. Because if you look at it critically from the Western world, we are safe here in Nigeria. There is thousands every day they die.
Outside this country?
Yes. Especially countries like America, Italy, France, Germany, it's affecting them. That's why I keep saying that I think God is an African man. Considering what is happening over there, if you compare it to Africa, we wouldn't have been in existence. So I'm begging that everybody, the Christians, should put their hands together and pray fervently that God can cleanse the area of pandemic so that life can return to normalcy. Then in Nigeria, I'm begging the government to please live up to its expectation. Not only with this NSAS thing, it was God that intervened. For 14 days, Nigeria was at a standstill. It almost consumed the government. There was almost a takeover in Nigeria government. It should serve as a lesson for Nigeria. To, the youth, they've outlined their grievances, they've itemized this to the government to look into. They should look into it critically and meet some of all these things. That there shouldn't be a reputation of that NSAS, because once bitten, twice shy. So the government should, and the kidnappers too, the armed robbers, this constant court clashes is getting alarming. They should try and educate these children. The traditional rulers, parents, churches should try and educate these children on the essence of living a good life. You did not create life. And these things, they are being done ignorantly. Every day you see one youth dying with a cutlass, gunshot, and as if they are acting Nollywood movie. It's real. They should desist from such things and let us live normal life. And I think 2021 will be a better year if all these things are adhered to.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Maxwell, your closing remarks.
Thank you. It's so funny sometimes when I ask myself certain questions. How did we get here? I used to hear from my father that when they were growing up, they begged them, even they paid them when they are schooling. They paid them when they are schooling.
Stipends.
Yes, stipends. Yeah. They pay them. So now try to use that to encourage them why they have to. Now I ask myself, between that time and this time, is it that we got another set of persons who really do not know the agenda or the idea behind Nigeria as a nation and decide to turn it around? However, my postulation for this year is great, and I know it is not just by individual postulation, is when God is involved. You know, when God says, I will do above your imagination, he speaks volume. And he speaks volume because that which we actually think or imagine, God has a way of surpassing it and giving us. People postulated that there will be death all over the streets. In Africa, Nigeria, you will see dead on the road and everything. The same person who postulated came back and said, I really do not know how it happened that there is no death in Africa, Nigeria, which is inclusive. Now, it's a testament to the fact that God is active in this country. Of a truth, the only problem we have in this country, I've seen it, the only problem we have in this country, we don't have natural disaster like we see in Western world. We do not have serious terrorist kind of thing.
Good weather.
And good weather as we see in Pakistan and all those things. Now we are blessed with everything. Now the only problem we have is leaders. Is leaders. So Nigeria is a country where you throw a coin. Certainly you expect it to grow in the next few days. So I'm looking forward when our leaders, outside partisan politics, you try to look at the bigger picture. Take a look at what is happening in America as we speak. The president of the world, let me use that word, of the world has been denied access to tweet because his tweet is instigating crisis in their country. Now they cut him off. Can you do that in this country? So now the president has been put to check. Respect your office and make sure you don't say anything. And that's a country where the people control affairs. Now, my postulation is this, that the politicians should allow the people decide what happened and how it will happen, and listen and do what they want, not what they think is good for me and everything. So if we move in that line and we start giving ear to people, you know, when God said, he got to a point, he said, let's reason together. Now for God to say let's reason together is because he has given you one vital part in your life, which is the choice, which that choice is in charge. So for him to get a vital answer from you to say, agree with me, let's discuss. So our politicians should, if God himself can tell man that he created, let's discuss. How come that we that put you there, you don't want us to discuss? As we speak, that discussion is what is leading for you not to be able to restructure the police force. That is what is leading for you not to give us a better federalism system. Let's come together. My postulation is that we can be great if we come together and discuss and get a vital point out of that discussion.
Thomas, your closing remark, Professor.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We wish everybody happy New Year once more. We want to beg the government and the politicians not to spend more time politicking this year. The election is still 2 years ahead of us. Those who want to be president and all that should focus more on governance for now. For those of them in government, I know some of the governors are adjusting to become this and that, so they won't govern. So they should focus on governance, and they should focus on the key areas we have discussed, apart from the COVID things, issues of security, education, unemployment should be addressed, and all that sectors. The budget should be implemented to the letter. Thank God it was passed on time, but we want to look forward to proper implementation so they can address all the key areas before other issues come on board. So I wish that we do well this year, and that this year will be better than last. And like they are self in the spiritual plane, I will pray that God will intervene and make this year a better year for everybody.
Thank you very much. I want to thank my guests, Andre Galoa. Thank you for your comments. Dr. Maxwell, you were really very spiritual on today's program, and you were able to link spirituality and the physical realm. Thank you. And of course, Professor Joe Bodion, thank you very much for your very wonderful comments as well. I guess my viewer out there, you've enjoyed today's edition. You've seen a review of last year, and you've seen what has been offered, the suggestions that can make Nigeria a better nation. It is the optimism of my guests that our leaders, like Dr. Master Sell, discuss with the people, which is also known as town hall meetings, and involve ideas to catapult Nigeria to higher heights. On that note, I say thanks for being a part of this week's edition. My name is Ego Sagbonao. Next week, we'll be looking at another national issue on 60 Minutes Nigeria. Until then, do have a wonderful weekend ahead. Bye-bye.